Hi, welcome to Steve Chats Wrestling right here on youtube.com. Make sure to like the video, please subscribe to the channel, leave your comments in the comments section. Going to be doing a response video for you now because I watched a video on the Gerry channel the other day and kind of got me thinking a little bit, and I kind of wanted to respond to it because I thought it was a really good video. If you haven't seen Gerry, check him out on YouTube now. Video is always worth a watch, very entertaining, good element of comedy as well as some really good views on pro wrestling as well. But yeah, he's basically called out and said, is WWE going to be worse in 2016 than 2015? Now that is a big call to make because, well, let's be fair, the ratings last year, probably the worst in over 20 years it's been recorded, and yeah, really one of the big low spots really for WWE. And it goes on to really compare the WrestleMania cards from last year to this year. Doesn't feel fully invested as much in this year's WrestleMania card, and I can understand that. I think that this year's WrestleMania card has been massively hit with a lot of injuries, and there's a lot of panic work that's been hitting from WWE. But again, I mean, let's be honest, really, we look at the build-up itself. I mean, take the matches out of the equation. Any match can be exciting if it is booked correctly. Now, of course, sometimes we know that the match isn't always going to be as good when we get round to it, but if the story is good behind it, then we've got some investment. We care a little bit about it. So there seems to be quite a bit of lack of that, but there was not really a lot of that last year in WrestleMania's card. You look at it really, and there wasn't really too much incentive to really get you going last year. I mean, there was a few key moments here and there, and it feels like this year kind of going to be the same, really. It's going to be that first Raw after Fastlane heading for Mania, and Roadblock, unfortunately, really was a roadblock. It really has interrupted things going towards WrestleMania. We now are uninterrupted going to WrestleMania now. There's nothing in the way anymore. No more Fastlanes, no more roadblocks, no more speed bumps, no more, well, lollipop ladies, whatever you want, really. There's nothing going to be in the way anymore, really, of WrestleMania. It's just pure booking from here. But, of course, Raw this week, for me, it still felt a bit flat, felt a bit lacklustre, but I think there were some points they wanted to get across, and they got them across. But going back into the opinion in hand, is this year going to be worse than last year? And really, I think we have to look really from the start of where things really start to go wrong for WWE, and I think Gerry pointed this out in his video as well. From when Daniel Bryan won the title, it seems to have been a lot of piss poor booking from there, and I do agree with that. But you have to look at the injury situation really in WWE, and I think that this has had a massive part to play in a lot of WWE's booking over the last 2 years. Of course, there was the CM Punk fiasco leaving the company as well, so not really injury related, that one, but of course it threw a big spanner in the works really of his match with Triple H going into WrestleMania. Then it was changed to Daniel Bryan, and all the fans were behind Daniel Bryan, wanted Bryan to be the main guy. Eventually WWE kind of got on board and understood that's what they needed to do, and completely changed the WrestleMania around and made it actually a decent event to watch in the end, and it had that glorified end of the night story with Daniel Bryan holding the belt above his head. Cue the next couple of weeks on Raw and where the problems really begin. Now, they made all the changes to do that anyway, which was last minute booking, rushing around to get that sorted and make a show together. They then made plans for Daniel Bryan as WWE champion heading into the summer. Daniel Bryan gets injured. So you look at it there, they're then scrapping for the next 3 or 4 months of what they can do. I mean, Bryan kept the belt for a little while, and then they actually had to get rid of the belt off of him. Cena was the makeshift champion, and then he was the guy that was fed to Brock Lesnar, like Daniel Bryan was meant to be at SummerSlam, and Brock Lesnar continued as the champion from there. Now, where then you look at it and say, well, this was one of WWE's other mistakes, is the fact that Brock Lesnar wasn't always at every pay-per-view, so the WWE title wasn't actually defended half of the time, and you know, you expect to see that 12 months a year on pay-per-view. We'll move forward a little bit further to the Royal Rumble with Daniel Bryan come back. Roman Reigns is not the guy that we want. In the time that Brock Lesnar has been champion, Reigns has been built, but Reigns then gets injured as well, misses about 2 to 3 months worth of action, really kills his momentum. He comes back and it doesn't feel like he's ready now to be the guy to main event WrestleMania that we were all promised to have. He then goes and wins the Royal Rumble. Daniel Bryan completely eliminated from the equation on the night, which really created one of the worst Royal Rumbles matches in history. We then see that Daniel Bryan then is given another chance to be involved in a match with Roman Reigns, and again they give Roman Reigns the boost. So then we're not getting what we want as fans going into WrestleMania. I know some people are a fan of Roman Reigns. I personally think that the guy is I think he's alright. I don't mind him, but I think that he's been forced too much down our throats. Same as one of the reasons why I don't like the Usos. I think they're forced down our throats in the tag team division. They put in some good matches, but I mean, Slammy Tag Team of the Year last year, no, it doesn't work for me really. They weren't even on the roster for half of the year, so how can they be Tag Team of the Year when you have teams like the New Day that were there all the year round? Now, regardless of what you think about the New Day, I'm not the biggest fan of them, but they were there for 12 months and they kept the tag team division together when really there wasn't much else teams that were doing that. I mean, you see the Lucha Dragons, the Dudley Boys coming back as well, not on the main roster all year round. The New Day were there from start to finish. Of course, if Cesaro and Tyson Kidd had stayed as a tag team, I think they potentially could have been within a shout myself. But anyway, moving particularly forward anyway, you look at them between WrestleMania 31 to now, the amount of injuries that we've suffered, and there was injuries then in the build-up between that year as well. I mentioned Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns being two of an example. WWE, I think, have just lost faith because they seem to have put a lot of stories together, a lot of ideas together in the creative side of things, and they keep having to be nixed because of the fact that literally people get injured and they seem to think, right, well, we have no faith in anyone. Well, you look at it right now, the amount of superstars out of WrestleMania this year, it's surprising they can even put a card together, to be honest. I mean, Bray Wyatt and Neville, the latest two to be seen, is now not going to be on the WrestleMania card, most likely, along to go with, John Cena, Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, Cesaro, Big Show. The list goes on and on and on. It's so many superstars that are not going to be there. But yeah, that for me is one of the big reasons why is the injury situation. The lack of booking really is because they don't know where to go creatively going forward. They need to really make decisions and stick with them and go forward with them and really have concrete plans. And if not, have a backup plan, because if you don't have a backup plan already in place, you're going to do this panic last minute booking, and there seems to be a little too much going off the fly. Stuff doesn't make sense, and for me really as well, if you can ask my actual opinion, I think the creative team is too big. There's too many people on it. You look in the Attitude Era, there was like Vince Russo, Ed Ferrara, just those guys, no one else, and now you've got tables of like 24 people writing the scripts every week. It might be a different person writing each bit of the storyline different every week. We don't actually know, because sometimes it feels like that. It doesn't connect and it doesn't flow the way that it should. Looking at this year's WrestleMania, I mean, you can see everything has been kind of thrown together, and I was a big fan of Shane McMahon Undertaker when it was first booked. Loved the concept of the fact that it was very unpredictable. That was the thing that made me kind of excited, because I think wrestling is far too predictable these days. I think someone that's watched it for 5 minutes can see what's going to happen. It's going at a snail's pace. I mean, Gerry has also done a video on it. Should Raw go back to 2 hours? You have to remember that Raw currently is longer than a pay-per-view, because it's not 3 hours, it's 3 hours and 15 minutes with advertisement. So, I mean, we're getting like 3 hour shows, 3 hour 15-minute shows every week. It was 2 hour 15 when it was Raw each week, and you can see SmackDown has got a better flow to it and a faster pace. I think Raw needs that as well. I think it needs to go back to 2 hours, or it needs to go to 2.5 hours at a push. Maybe just have a little bit of the superstars that maybe won't make the cut, but then some of the matches could be done better all round really. It's just a bit piss poor all round, but that's kind of my view really on it. I think that the injuries are a big problem. Yes, creatively it has been terrible. There's not enough to get us invested in the storylines going on, and I think a big problem as well is that with Raw at the moment, if you watch the first Raw after a pay-per-view and the last Raw before the pay-per-view, you don't really need to see the middle. And I think that even includes now really with WrestleMania season. We've had Roadblock, which has taken its own little segment away. Nothing really has happened focusing going on to WrestleMania, which I think is really a shame really. I would like to see more actual build for just WrestleMania. I think Roadblock would be a good pay-per-view name for next year instead of Fastlane. I think it's a terrible name for a pay-per-view. But looking at it, I think those are some of the big reasons why it's been quite poor. To answer the question, I think that 2015 was supposed to be an exciting year for WWE because they're looking to build new stars from here. It's clear to see that the guys that are at the top aren't as much at the top anymore, aren't as much the focal point. Kane and the Big Show have gone well down the card now and a kind of bit part coming in here and there. John Cena has been going down to mid-card. Randy Orton's been out injured again. It's a time really where guys should be pushing for the top to be alongside Roman Reigns. I think two guys that have been booked well have been Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose in the last 2 years. But I think they need to book more guys like this going forward. Kevin Owens particularly, I think will be a great way going forward for the top of the hills. I think Sami Zayn, Finn Balor coming into WWE are going to be very exciting going forward. There could be a good push for these guys in the future, but I think they're going to start in the mid-card. AJ Styles needs to go to the top as well. But that's particularly my view on it. I think those guys could be the cream of the crop, and it should really be an exciting time to be a wrestling fan, because these guys, we don't know who is going to be the top guy. Roman Reigns is meant to be the top guy, but he's not the guy that we want. Will we eventually get what we want? It's up to Vinnie Mac, really, isn't it? But that's my view on the situation anyway. I don't think that this year is going to be as bad as last year, although if they keep going the direction they're going and having the bad luck with injuries, then yeah, I think maybe it could be as bad a year. But if people can come back and they can get a little bit more tighter creatively, and storylines as well, they don't get a bit more faith that not everyone's going to get injured every 5 minutes, I think maybe we might start to see some progression going forward. Maybe some positive booking maybe might help as well. I'm going to look at the time on this as well. There's still time to talk a little bit more, because there's one kind of topic really that does sort of come to mind with this as well, is that you look kind of at the booking situation and think, is, for someone that like me who's watched this since 1992 in WWE and 1990 wrestling, is there anywhere further you can go with storylines? I mean, you look at it and say, well, come on, like over 20 years, is there anything more that can be written? It's a PG product, it's not TV-14, you can't expand it. Is it ever going to be at the heights of an Attitude Era again? I don't think it's ever going to get that sort of height anymore. But I sort of feel that it's hard to be as creative as it used to be. I mean, when we see something on WTV, I can normally call it and say we've seen it at least 3 or 4 times. I did my podcast show, and my guests made references of how things used to go out. The arena used to see the bell go flying in the river in Mississippi, but we've seen it happen multiple times since. Excuse me, voice is going. With Damien Sandow and Cody Rhodes most recently. I think it was in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. It was the most recent time that's done, but it's been done with ECW, and has also been done with the title ever since. So we've probably seen it 4 or 5 times over the course of the last 15, 17 years. So, I mean, storylines do get rehashed. I mean, Big E, when he was in NXT, had the 5 count, same as King Kong Bundy in the 90s and 80s in WWE. So you look at it and say, it's hard to really be creative and new and fresh, but I think they should look at things like the technology, the voice is really going, the advantages going forward, and really look to build storylines on that, because you can do stuff. Look at what's around. Rather than bring the celebrities in, use the new television thing, shows to inspire. Don't bring an arrow in, but use that character to inspire to make a new character going forward. I think character development is very dangerous in WWE right now, because a lot of people, we don't really get exposed to what the character really is. You look at Kalisto, I'm a big fan of his work, I think he's a great in-ring performer, but why should we get behind him apart from the fact he looks like Rey Mysterio and is Rey Mysterio 2.0? We don't really know enough about the guy. We need to know more. We need to know more about Ryback and other characters. Really give some more character development into what these people are as people and as characteristics going forward. I think Kevin Owens does the best of a bad job doing that. As much as I'm not a big fan always of the New Day, I think they do a good job in doing that. You can separate them from other people on the card, and I think that's one of the things they need to do going forward. So there you go, that's my views on the situation on in response to the General Gerry video. I hope you've enjoyed watching it, and please subscribe to this channel. You've been watching Steve Chats Wrestling right here on youtube.com. Leave your comments if you have any in the comment section.